Satnam, yogis and yoginis, hello and welcome back to another live stream. Today we have a exciting topic, and the day of today is a bit special. Today is the 12th of the month 12 of 2024, 12-12-24. Satnam, Sohail, good to see you here. Good of you to join us. And because of this 12-12-24, I'm thinking of doing something special because the new year is coming, and the new year generally brings us with, fills us with ideas of things that I want to change in my life. And let's approach this in the right way. Satnam, Isabel, good of you to be here as well. I'm glad that you two are here right now. And so a new year is coming. A new year is a new opportunity to change things in ourselves. And so we want to start with the right foot. And so today we're going to explore what is it necessary for me to do life changes, and then how can I design the best possible resolution that is going to be helping me. The resolution itself is going to be helping me to manifest it. Because sometimes we do some kind of resolutions that are actually nearly impossible to achieve, and then we set ourselves up for failure. So today we will see how to set ourselves up for success, actually. And we will start by talking about the life habits, how we want to change life habits. Now, we have a whole level 2 in Kundalini Yoga that we dedicate to life habits and life cycles and how to change them. So this is a topic that, in yoga, we spend 6 days, like a retreat, 6 full days talking about this. And it's not just life habits, but also lifestyles and life cycles, because the thing is, depending on our age, we are going to need to adjust the habits. So if we are not adjusting our lifestyle, then we are trying to keep up with a pace that was suitable when we were 10 years younger, but is not relevant anymore. So today, we're not going to go into that because life cycles is a big topic. As I said, this is like a 6 days full retreat. We will do just an introduction to prepare ourselves for life changes that we want to do and how to write the resolution. So let's start with the habits. We all have some form of toxic habits, toxic patterns, toxic things that we have gotten used to doing in a particular way. And now it is hard to change because they are so ingrained in our day-to-day or in our identity. We feel identified with those, or we simply are addicted to them, or we just don't feel we have the strength to change them. And the thing is, when we keep repeating the old habits, the brain doesn't change. It just keeps reinforcing the same neural pathways again and again. And we feel old. This is going to be making us feel old. While when we are changing a life habit, this is going to mold the brain in a different way, and it's like, the neural plasticity is going to come up. We're going to change the neural pathways. We're going to feel that we are learning something. We're going to feel different. And my approach to life is always to get to the next level, always get to the next level, see what's next that I can do, how can I get there, how can I find inspiration and impulse to get there. So what's going to help me to get there? So the first thing that we need to do is identify habits that we want to change, things that are ingrained in us and we know that they are just pulling us down. And that's generally pretty easy. I think most people at this point, if this was a course, I would ask you to, and you can do it if you are watching this video recorded already, you can pause it, and not if it's live stream, but if it's recorded, you can pause it and you can take a minute to do a list of the things that you want to change in your life, the habits that you want to change. And the thing is, do it if you want now. But the thing is, most people don't really want to change things, or they cannot change things. So I think it's something like 9 out of 10 cases People will say, well, I want to stop smoking, but they don't actually manage to do it. And many people, even if they tell them, look, if you don't stop smoking, you will be dead in 6 months. And even then they will say, well, I'd rather die in 6 months enjoying what I like to do than actually doing it. But actually, is that really because they enjoy it, or is it because they don't know how to stop, or they cannot stop? So typical, no, that if you're having some health issue, and then maybe diet is a problem, which is often is, and they say, well, if you don't adjust the diet, this is going to be very critical. Sweets are a classical thing, but all sort of diets would be, you can see it in many dietary problems. And well, you tell them, if you don't stop eating in this way, you're going to shorten your life by 10 years. And they say, no, it's okay. I will enjoy the 10 years, whatever years I have, I will enjoy them. But is it because of that, or is it because they cannot stop it, or they don't know how to stop it? And then they make an excuse to say, yeah, I prefer to live this way and live 6 months, 10 years less than actually changing this thing in me. But most people, many people, is because they don't want to put the effort, but at the same time it's because they don't know how to put the effort. And here is where psychology comes in, but also yoga comes in, and there is a number of tools that we can apply. There's a number of things that we can do, and we have to take into consideration. First thing we have to consider is that making a life change implies taking a risk. Because when we have something that is a habit, when it has become habitual in us, is because it's comfortable to us. So it's become part of our identity. This is something that we do. This is part of who we are. And when we want to change something that is part of our identity, it means that we are going to go through an identity crisis, because we associate with that, and that's going to have to break. An example that I give very often is that there is a difference between somebody who smokes when they, socially, after a meal, when they are with friends, at lunch, they stop and they have a cigarette, and they'll say, I just have a cigarette when I have meal with my friends. It's different from saying, I am a smoker. I am a smoker is definitely an identity. It's different from somebody who says, oh, I have a few kilos extra, or pounds, I think it's in the American system. I think a few extra pounds is different from saying, I am fat or I am obese. So there is a difference between something that is happening and is transitory, or something that has been ingrained as part of our identity. It's become part of our identity. So to leave those things which are part of our identity is going to go through a crisis. And going through a crisis is important, but it's all going to imply taking risks. I'm going to risk being uncomfortable. I'm going to risk being outside of my comfort zone to explore the possibility of what I can become. So if we understand that making a habit change, changing a habit, changing a pattern in our life. And by the way, we are doing this session today on habits and patterns because number 12, 1, 2, 12, it's a number for repetition and habits. So it's a number that, like, something repeats. Like every year when you get to the month 12, you're going to jump back into 1. So it's connected with repetitions and therefore habits. So just a little explanation of why we are doing this on the 12th of 12/24. Okay, so I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to choose to change something that is very, this word keeps coming up, ingrained in me. I'm going to change this. I'm going to take the risk, and I want to get to a best place, a better place in my life. Sorry. All right. If you're going to take a risk, then there has to be some inner security. This is very important. If we don't feel secure, how are we going to be able to go out of our comfort zone and take the risk of changing a habit? You can do it, But how long is it going to stay? That's going to be, well, it's going to have to be seen. Because if we are feeling already insecure within ourselves and we try to make a big change, then whatever insecurity linked with the risk that is coming up is going to raise a lot of anxiety and stress. And if we do a big change, or we do several at once, which is something that I see very common in people, which when they do their New Year resolutions, they want to change 3 or 4 things at once, and they end up doing it for 2, 3 days, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. But very soon, they have to drop one, or they have to drop another, or something happens one day and they drop all of them at once. And then they feel disappointed, and they feel like a failure, and the feeling stays with them for the rest of the year until the New Year resolution comes again. And they already start next year with a little bit of fear because they remember that last year they didn't do them. They didn't do the resolution. So there's a little bit of fear there as well. And so if we're going to take risks, first we need to build the inner security, and also second, increase the confidence that we have into exploring this new, risky, different self. So this concept of security is going to be important. We're going to have to reflect upon what does this mean, because security is going to have to come on different levels, on the physical, on the mental, emotional, and even the spiritual level. So you can feel physically secure when you have a safe nest. Yeah, if you're thinking in animal brain, yeah, the reptilian brain is about security, it's about survival. So how is your house? How is your room? How is the place where you inhabit? Do you feel safe there? Does your house feel safe? And if you are in a difficult situation with people that you are living with, maybe flatmates or maybe your partner, and you are in a stress and in a challenging situation, maybe a conflicting relationship, then already that nest is dangerous. You may feel it like some people, when they come home, they're scared. How is my husband? How is my wife going to be when I open the door? And then you open the door and then you find out. Or, this is common. So maybe an alcoholic in the family, maybe a father is alcoholic. The children are fearing when the father comes in. When the father comes through the door, you never know. Is he going to be a saint or a devil? No, and that, therefore, the nest already, the place where you should be safe and protected, is corrupted in some way. So finding your own space and creating your own peace in your nest, in your home, is super important. A little tip here would be, if you have a partner, if you have a relationship, to not argue in the bed. This is a little tip that we can safely apply to our lives. The energy in the room is not for that. The energy in the bed should not be for arguments. If there is something very pressing and we couldn't find time during the day, and it arises the moment we lay in bed, and now this thing comes up and it's going to become an argument and we cannot go to sleep before dealing with that, get out of bed. Get out of bed, go to the kitchen, prepare some tea, something that can nourish you, because then you're going to feel more safe and secure inside. Some hot drink, hot beverage. This is typical, right? You're going to feel safer, secure inside, so that we can have this difficult conversation outside. But we do this outside of the bedroom. So this is another example of how we look for security in our home, in our bedroom, in our bed, in our house. This should be a place for peace and safety, and having a safe space. So that would be physical, but also has to happen on the physical body itself. This was a physical feeling of peace around me, but security, but also in the physical body. So if our body is having some weakness right now, if we are sick, if we are going through a lot of stress and we are close to burnout or something like that, this is not the time to make radical changes that are not in relationship to the thing that is causing you the burnout and the stress. So definitely deal with that, with the burnout, deal with that first, but this is not the time to experiment something else. So having a healthy body is fundamental to create changes that are going to affect the stability of the mind. Emotional as well, having an emotional harbor, having a place where you can feel emotionally safe. Maybe, having some friends that you can confide with, that you can trust and to open with, and then you can share what is happening to you, and you always feel some sort of comfort. This is going to be fundamental. How as many sources of backup we can get, they are going to give us the security that we need to embark into this journey of self-discovery. So having a group of peers, group of friends, even family that is nearby, but Sangat, people that are going to give you this support is critical. Think of it this way. The moment you make a big life change, it's going to be a battle. You're going to be fighting with a tendency to go back to the old pattern, and you're going to face days when it's going to be very hard. There's going to be changes that are going to be very hard, especially if the change is significant. Stopping smoking is a typical one, but you can put many examples here, and you will realize how some days something will happen, the stress will go up, and this change that you did is going to create even more feeling of insecurity around you, and you're going to be in a battle. Now, if you think of a battle, if you think in a war, and you see there is the front line of attack, the front line of defense. This is where the actual fight happens. But there is a huge system of backup, of support and supply to the troops that are in the front. And how do they eat? How do they where do they get the ammunition from? Yeah, there has to be a lot of supplies from behind, so that these ones can fight. So in the same way, when we are going to make a life change, and we're going to feel we get out of our security and safety of the old me and exploring a new possibility. And in difficult days, I'm going to find myself in a battle. I'm going to need the emotional support from other people around me that are going to give these supplies, not ammunition, but it's kind of the same way. It's going to give this energetic backup that is going to help you to hold the intensity with which you are doing the changes. So that's important. Yeah, physical stability and security, emotional, and the mental as well. And the mental will imply that it's going to be a lot of psychology about taking responsibility for yourself and deciding this is what I want to do with my life, this is where I want to go, and define very clearly the path in which you want to go, and even write it down, make it clear, make it concise and expressive, something that you can express verbally as well, but something that you can see and reflect and remember, so that when a difficult day comes, you can remember, well, this is why I'm doing it. Remind yourself, why are you doing this? What's the point of making this life change? And then find levels of support there in the psychological aspects, in what you tell yourself, rather than allowing yourself to listen to negative self-talk, having ready a good amount of phrases and sentences and things that you can tell yourself to give you support to hold the commitment to what you decided to change. And so that's going to be important. And again, having the mental stability, that's going to be important. So then there's also a spiritual security. Yeah? There's physical, emotional, mental, and also a spiritual security. If you have faith, if you anchor yourself in your faith and you surrender to God, then you're going to be in a much stronger position when a challenge comes. You're going to say, well, give me support, God, because I cannot do this. We explore this even in physical challenges in yoga. We go into these kriyas or meditations where we have the arms stretched and we have to hold them for sometimes 30 minutes, and it becomes so painful, so difficult. And at some point you can choose to just say, look, I cannot do this by myself. And then you say, well, please God, help me. When you find yourself in the corner, when you find yourself there's no way out, please, gurus, give me a hand. Please, gurus, hold my arms. Yeah, I'm commit myself to holding them, but you have to give me a hand. You have to help me, please. And through the power of your faith, you can find that immense relief can come in the moment that you feel the greatest pain. And, there's a lot of biological things that happen, endorphins and a lot of secretions in your brain that is going to help, but they are going to be flowing more readily if you are surrendering to something divine, if you have some sort of spiritual alignment. And also having this clarity that, look, what I'm trying to change, this change that I'm trying to do, is because I want to develop myself. And this is like a spiritual quest to find the next level, to go to as high as I can go, to develop my potential. So these are the 4 different levels of security that I'm going to need before making any change. Because, I'm not saying we can make any change. Okay, we can do small changes, but when we do big changes like the ones we're going to be proposing for the new year, we have to make sure that we are covered ourselves in these 4 flanks. These are the 4 flanks, the physical, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual support and stability and security, that when we find ourselves in a difficult day, this decision to change a big thing in our life is going to be supported by all these different aspects. All right. Then when the challenge comes, because they will come, then face it with honesty. Yeah, we often lie to ourselves. If we have a karmic pattern, if we have a pattern that we have been holding for a long time, and we wish we didn't have it, but somehow we don't feel strong enough to change it, it's often linked to certain mask, to a certain lie that we tell ourselves and we tell others on why we do that. It's like the example of, the diabetic who is told that he has to stop eating sweets, and he's like, well, I'd rather shorten my life a few years but enjoy the rest of my life. And it was like, well, is it really that, or is that a lie? And the truth is that you don't know how to stop that, because there is a sweetness to being able to hold your commitment and doing something that is of vital importance to your health. And there's a certain sweetness to that, to be able to hold yourself accountable and realize this is my responsibility. This is why I came, I have arrived to this point. It's my responsibility. I can change that, and take the change in your hands and do it. And when you manage to hold your commitment, that's really, really sweet. So you don't need any extra sweet on top of that. So be honest to yourself. Be honest when also there is a difficult day, and when you have a moment of weakness, when you find yourself debilitated and weak, then go back to your backup. Go back to your support line. Yeah, go back to the physical, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual support. Look for something physical that is going to give you support. Look for something emotional, maybe some friends, maybe Sangha. Look for something mental. Read some book that helps you. Maybe go back to your faith. So these are examples that are going to help you. Then the next point, this is a tricky one. When we take a risk and we decide to make a change in our life, some people are not going to like it. And there is a number of reasons why they are not going to like it. One of them is because, like I said, the habits that we have become part of our identity, and they are, let's say, friends with you, and you means your identity. So if your identity changes, they may find that they don't like that so much. So they were happy with the way you were before, not the way you are trying to be now. So if somebody is too attached to the old you have to question yourself why, and why should I stay in that state just so that they stayed with me? That is particularly important with couples, where one will hold back the other and trying to sabotage their efforts to progress because they don't want them to change. Well, that's not very friendly, right? And that's not somebody who wants the best for you. Somebody who wants the best for you is going to want you to reach to your highest potential in spite of whatever challenges come, and they're going to support you through that. So that's one thing. But then there is another reason why people don't like it. And it's because if you change something that it was really difficult, like stopping smoking or stop eating sweets all the time and so on and so forth, or taking drugs, whatever drugs there could be, if you stop something like that, you are a clear example of to other people that this is possible. And those people who cannot change it, who haven't found the courage, the strength, determination, or whatever to do those changes, they are going to not like you being an example for that. So this happens especially important in friendships as well. You will have friends who will not challenge you about your habits, your karmic habits, your vices, if you wish. Because if I don't challenge you about your vices, you're not going to challenge me about my vices. Yeah? And the moment that you one day decide, enough is enough, I'm going to change this, and you make this resolution, and then you actually make it manifest, the other person is going to be, uh-oh, because they don't want to confront themselves with having to change their own habits. And you changing yourself, that's going to be a bad reflection to them. And they're going to feel like, he's doing it, why am I not doing it? And feel guilty or ashamed or whatever. And often the best defense is an attack. So they will attack you for whatever you are doing, and they will say you are changing and you are different. And even if you are feeling better, even if you are happier, some people are going to be not happy about you being happier. They're going to reject that. They're going to feel some sort of, I don't know how to say it, but repelling, like repelling from you. So it's possible to lose friends like that. The moment that we do these big changes, it is quite possible that we're going to lose some friendships. So we need to be ready for that and tell ourselves, well, what is more important? And if we hold ourselves to our integrity and decide that this is the changes I need to do for my life to progress, and if that person truly loves me, they are going to be with me through this challenge. And it's not like you are trying to change them, right? It's just you are trying to change yourself, which is another important thing. Don't try to change anyone. Go change yourself. You don't. This is like the one who, if you are in the plane and you don't like the noise, put some noise cancelling earbuds or something. You're not going to go around the plane to tell anyone to shut up, going to the engines of the plane and trying to shut the engines down, yeah? You're going to crash. The life is about dealing with what's happening to you by yourself, on yourself, not by changing everyone else. No, this is like some people just want to change everyone else so that they are happy. No, we choose to take responsibility for our life, and those who are around us, if they love us, they will support us doing this change. Well, then, okay. Let's say we have decided and we have identified some areas that we want to change. We have decided what we want to do. We have started to create the resolution. We will, in a few minutes, we will see how to define best those changes, those resolutions, so that they are helpful to us and that we can hold them. Yeah, because if we create the list and then it's difficult to manifest, we're going to feel bad about ourselves. So we're going to do that in a minute. But before that, let's explore another concept. And this is that courage, the concept of courage. And when we try to do changes in life, because we're gonna have to step out of our comfort zone, and we need that security that we were talking about, we're gonna build up certain confidence and courage to face the challenge and the change. Okay, so what's the good thing about courage? There's something really, really useful, which is that courage is incremental and confidence too. Yeah, it's the same. So that means that if you do one thing today, tomorrow you will know that you did it today, and tomorrow, therefore, it's easier to do. So in 3 days' time, if you remember that you did it on day 1 and day 2, you know that you have the strength to do it, so it's easier to do on the 3rd day. And the 4th is even easier, and the 5th is even easier. So really the biggest challenge is on the first step, the initial commitment and the first step. That's the hardest one. That's why sometimes they say the best way to jump over a fence is to throw the hat. Yeah, throw the hat over it, because then you're already committed and you have to give the first step to try to go get the hat. So this is setting yourself up for success, getting ready, seeing the possibilities, seeing what you want to change, and do the first step and then sustain it. So let me give an example of this. If you are scared of dogs, then maybe don't expose yourself to a great big angry dog that is ready to eat you. That's not going to help. Dealing with phobia and fear through exposure, that's a good technique when you know how to apply it in the right way, in the right context, and with the right safety mechanisms in it. But if you are afraid of dogs and exposing yourself to a dog that is really wanting to eat you, is not going to help. But if you're afraid of dogs and then you find a really, really peaceful one, very quiet and very calm and very small, something that you can hold in your hands, and then you just go and then you pet the dog, even if you were scared of it the first time that you do it, you overcome the challenge, and now you have a precedent. You've done it once. Then the next time you will be able to do it with a little bit bigger dog, or a little bit less quiet and less still dog, one that can move, one that can maybe even bark. So you can build up slowly the thing that was creating the challenge in you and the thing that was making you scary. So you are building it up slowly, and you have the memory of what you already did. For example, when I think I shared this the other day on some meditations. When you do them for 1,000 days, this is like mastering that meditation. With any habit, it will be the same. We're not going to go into these 40, 90 days, all that. We're not going to go into that. But let's say you have committed to doing something for every day for the following year, right? One resolution like that. And then you do it for 20 or 30 days, and then something happens, and one day is really difficult to do. And that day, everything is going to go against you, and you don't want to do it. Your old self will not want to do it. Now, that's the day when you have to pull from all your internal resources and even external resources, my backup lines, my supply line, and overcome the challenge. Now, if you do it, if you overcome the challenge, that's going to set up a precedent. That's going to be something that is like, look, that day that was so difficult, so hard, that day I did it. So another day that you're just going to be lazy and you don't really feel like doing it, you will remember, well, okay, I don't feel like doing it, but actually that day I did it. That day was much harder than today, and I did it. So how am I not going to do it today? So you have this inner strength, inner fire that is going to help you in that. So that's what I'm saying with confidence. you have to start the first day. That's the breaking the barrier of the first day. That's very important. Then you can increase the confidence within yourself doing it. And then when the challenge comes, pull from all your support to overcome the challenge. Then any other day afterwards is going to be much easier. This has always been an attitude of mine. I don't know if it's very reasonable or even healthy, and I'm not going to suggest everyone to do it, but I'm just going to share the way I did it. And I was telling my daughters about this the other day, and they were having fun. Because when I got my driving license, the first time I got my driving license, I was 18. And the very first day I got the car, I said, okay, I'm going to do the hardest thing I can ever do. So in Mallorca, there is one little road that goes up a mountain to get to a little town that has beautiful fruit in it. Orient, it's called. And this road is really like very windy like that. And when you are turning, you cannot see if cars are coming. And it's only size for one car. So if you find another car in front and you're just turning, you have to find a place to stop. The other one has to overtake, and there is very little space. Maybe you're going to scratch the car and you have to fold the mirrors. And then there is a little town up there that it has the narrowest streets. So I went there the first day. So I remember it was like the hardest thing, one of the hardest things I had ever done. And I was driving by myself, and it was extremely stressful. Let me continue in a moment. So Hale says, by experience, I found that in order to change a habit, having a strong aspiration or something to achieve is much more powerful than just simply will to change. Yes, that's right. Yeah, something to achieve. Yeah, where are you getting to? Where do you want to get to? Yeah, that's very important. Yeah, it's like having a clear objective that you want to get to. Well, in the case of my example with the car, I didn't have any particular objective. Not clearly, I didn't have it in mind, though I would later recognize that I got something out of that experience that was extremely valuable. But anyway, the day was like that. I went there in the afternoon. It was like 3 or 4 hours driving up in the mountain and through the town and coming back. It was the most stressful. There were moments when I had to fold both mirrors because I couldn't pass through the little street. It was crazy. But after that day, everything was so easy. Any other day driving, it was like, and that day I was ready, right? I had mentally prepared myself. I said, okay, I'm going to go. Let's do it. Let's go for the hardest challenge. So after that, it was just easy because I had the memory of the other day. If the other day I did it and I overcame the challenge, what can happen today that I cannot do? So that, and I remember to this day, that stress that I went through and the relaxation that it gave me when I have to drive now. So it's different, because it's not like a habit that we are changing. This is like acquiring a new habit, maybe driving, or a new skill, we could say. But the concept of confidence is the same. If you find yourself with the right confidence, the right moment, and you face the challenge and you overcome it, then afterwards you are going to always look back to that point and say, well, you know what? That day I did it. Now I can do it too. And you draw from that confidence. It's like a bank that you are investing confidence, and then you're going to receive interest for the rest of your life. So always you can look at it like that. All right. So what else? Okay, let's go into identifying the things that we want to change and setting up the goals. Like Sohail was saying, it's if you have a strong aspiration or something you want to achieve, it's more important. So let's check this, how you set up some goals and you want to help yourself to get there. So the first thing would be to make a list of these things that I want to change in my life, habits that I want to change. And, if you can do 10 things, write 10 things. If you got 15, write 15. But I think the first 5 would be really easy. For most people, 3, 5, 7 is quite easy to write. But if you take a few minutes, this is like an investment into your future. Take a few minutes, write the list, and actually do it on paper. Don't just do it mentally, but write it down on a piece of paper. And when you have the list of the 10 things, then there would be how do you call that? Temptation to say, okay, next year I'm going to change this. And then you decide that you're going to change all of those. That would be probably a big mistake, because it's very difficult that you're going to be able to hold yourself through so many changes with the stress that is going to come into you, holding all those habits, all those changes of the habits. Now, rather than taking it like that, rather than being too, this is something of the times that we are living in. Yeah, we want things now. We don't want to wait. We don't have the patience to wait. We want to make all these changes now. But, unfortunately, if you really want to make it work, you're going to have to be a little bit patient about this. But let's do it like that. You take the list of the 10 things, and then you rearrange it so that you put in the top the most important that you can change. Okay, because there will be some things that are very important to me, but I don't feel ready to change. And this is something that nobody else can say, only you can decide. I feel ready to change this. I feel ready to tackle this issue. Okay, then if you feel ready, put it at the top. And then of all those that you feel ready, put them in order of priority. So the number 1 in the list will be the highest priority and that I am able to change. And so you start with those that you can change, and then put below the list those that you are not feeling ready yet, but they may have more priority, but you don't feel ready to deal with those. And we're not going to go for those right now. And this is quite personal. The way I've been doing it is to choose only one thing from the list. Now, it may be quite frustrating because you say, well, I have all these things I want to change, and you're telling me I can only change one. Well, you can try, feel free to try to change more than one. It's going to be more challenging. But if you allow yourself the patience to integrate every one of the changes slowly, think of it this way. If you look at your list of 10 things, and the top 5 are going to be like the most important things in your life that you want to change. And the top 1, 2, 3, more important and that you can feel that you can change. The others, more important, but you cannot change them yet. Okay. Imagine that you change one of them this year. And next year you change the second, holding the first one in place, right? You don't lose it. You hold the changes that you did in the first one, and you can manage to change the ones on the second one. And the third year, you change 3. Imagine where will you be in 5 years? Can you imagine how you will be having changed all those 5 most important vices or karmic patterns that you have in your life? Imagine fully get rid of those. In only 5 years, complete new life. If that's not something compelling and something that gives us inspiration to go there, then I don't know what will. You have to imagine, how will my life be if I could get rid of all of this and I could live without all of this? And that is the promise that you make yourself. But in order to hold yourself to that promise, you say, well, I'm going to put the effort to change one, the top one. And I'm not going to care about the others just now. I'm going to allow myself to let the others be there. And that's going to be tough because you know that this is something that you want to change. But what will happen is that when you do the first change, let's put some examples. Let's say you want to stop smoking. And let's say you want to stop eating so much pizza, I don't know, or greasy things, or fast food. Maybe you eat fast food once a day. I don't know. Maybe some people do, right? So, well, if you decide for your New Year resolution that you're going to stop smoking, you are not going to worry about the fast food, right? Even though it's also very important, and you know your health could improve if you stop the fast food and if you eat more healthy and maybe you cook for yourself or you eat, whatever. If you change that, it's going to improve, but it's also going to improve if I stop smoking. So if you commit yourself to stop smoking, then you can allow yourself to have the others and not feel bad about them. So the commitment is this. I do the change of the first the first point, but if I do the other ones, I'm not going to feel guilty about it. So you can stop smoking and then eat your pizza and enjoy it, right? I'm not even saying that pizza is bad. I'm not saying that, right? But I'm saying if this was the change, no, you want to stop eating fast food every day. Well, if you stop smoking, you can enjoy your fast food, all right? You have a whole year to integrate the idea that you are not a smoker anymore. And next year, I'm going to tackle the next issue. So, because what's going to happen? The moment that we do a big change, like stopping smoking, the internal stress is going to increase. And the level of security is going to decrease. And this is going to be, the anxiety that we're going to go through is going to be quite high. And so some of the comfort food, for example, or comfort habits that we have are going to be a little bit out of place, excuse me. So maybe you stop smoking, but suddenly your consumption of sweets goes higher. And it's okay. I just stopped smoking. My consumption of sweets has gone higher. But actually, this is not a sustainable thing. This is just like a compensation that we do. And then we'll slow down and we'll calm down. And it will go back to a normal level. It will not stay like that. So that's if you can allow yourself to have that and not feel guilty, because guilt is also very tricky. This is a mind game that is quite dodgy. We talked about mind games in another course that was very important. So if you don't feel guilty, that's going to be healthier for your mental state. Because if you are doing something incredibly brave, stopping smoking, but then you feel guilty about eating sweets or fast food or whatever, then you are not rewarding yourself for the brave thing that you are doing. So you have to feel brave and don't feel guilty about the others. So that's number one. That's number one thing. However, a little pause before we go into more. There is another reason why the sweets increase or why the fast food increase, which is that you are removing a habit. And by the way, generally the changes in life, when I have stopped doing some habits, some vices, have been more powerful than those habits that I have accumulated or acquired. So when we do a life change, generally they are more powerful, those things that we stop rather than the things that we add. So that's quite common, like stopping smoking, stopping eating sweets or drugs or whatever. When you stop doing something that is vicious, then that's more powerful than saying, okay, next year I'm going to prepare a fresh fruit juice every morning for myself. Okay, that's a nice habit if you want to have it, but that's something that you add. Yeah. If you stop smoking, that's something that you remove. Now, because the universe doesn't like the void, if you remove something from yourself, like this habit of smoking, there's going to be a void there. And if you then add something instead, that's why the sweets or the fast food or some other concept rises to compensate for the void of the smoking. So that's one thing. So one thing that we can do is, if your commitment is one thing that you want to remove, one thing that you want to change is removing a habit, then think of what am I going to bring in my life for that thing that I'm taking out. And when I feel like smoking, what am I going to do? So There's different tools from yoga, from pranayams to mantras. There's some meditations that are extremely good for this. There's some particular meditations that are good to also break habits, and some for specific habits, some universal, like there's this one that is a universal meditation for break any habit, but then there is specific ones for different things, or specific pranayams, for example, for smoking, like I was saying. So choose what you're going to bring in instead of the one that you are taking out, so that you don't create any hole and you don't feel so much of an imbalance. But if an imbalance happens, and any of the other things that are in your list of things you want to change gets increased, don't worry about it, don't feel guilty about it, and it will normalize. Quite probably will go back to its normal state. So it's good. If you don't feel guilty, if you feel good with yourself, you're going to be stronger emotionally and mentally to tackle the challenges which already come from stopping smoking. Okay, so having talked about, I'm going to change one thing. Yeah, and this is the one thing that I'm going to change for next year. Okay, so which is this thing? How am I going to write it down so that I can commit to changing it? And there is a number of elements that are useful when we have to design this list of resolutions, list of changes. Well, the first thing is it has to be measurable. The change has to be measurable. I've done this exercise many times with students in the trainings, and sometimes some student will say, well, I want to be less judgmental, or I want to be less critical, criticize less. And you're like, okay, well, all right, maybe that's something that is interesting for you, but how do you measure that? How do you measure how judgmental you are? Is there going to be a barometer, some sort of internal instrument that is going to tell you today you were judgmental 9.3 times and tomorrow is like 7.9? How do you measure that? And how do you stop that? It's very difficult because there is no clear way to do that. Now, imagine, for example, saying, well, before going to sleep, every night, I'm going to be grateful for the things that I have. Yeah? Count your blessings, not your curses, they say, right? So rather than being judgmental about my life or other people's life and things like that, which is difficult to measure, you can definitely measure whether at the end of the day you did it or you didn't, to count your blessings and to give thanks for that. So that's something that you can measure. At the end of the day, you can tell, yes, I did it. Yeah? Or yes, I didn't do it, right? Stopping smoking. Well, you can measure it by how many cigarettes did you smoke. If at the end of the day I didn't smoke any cigarette, I did it, right? If you smoked one, you didn't do it. So this is something that you can measure. So when we have our list of things that we want to change, you would now, if you wish, you could stop the video again and check which of those things are not measurable and find out if you can transform them into something that is measurable. Like the example I gave, rather than being critical, being grateful. And then, okay, at the end of the day, and you have to establish clear something very clearly. Like, for example, every morning I'm going to be grateful, or every night before waking up I'm going to be grateful, or every morning when I wake up the first thing I'll do is blah blah blah. So the habit that you want to change has to be established, clearly delineated with something that you can measure. Now, if you don't want to say every morning or every night, and you want to say just every day I'm going to do some stretching exercises, let's say, or like 3 sun salutations, let's say like that. Okay, you don't say every morning, you can do them in the evening. And then another day you prefer to do in the morning, you do in the morning. Another day in the afternoon. It doesn't matter as long as you hold your commitment. So it's not that you have to say every morning or every night. You can decide that. But if you write down every night before going to sleep, I'm going to be grateful, then you're going to have to do it every night to hold the commitment. If you break it and then one night you don't do it, or for example, if you say every morning I'm going to do the three sun salutations, one day you didn't do it in the morning, well, I'll do it in the evening. No, doesn't count because you committed to doing it in the morning. If you start breaking the rules and being softer with yourself, then you lose that commitment. Then it's very easy to start being lying to yourself. And remember, one of the elements was honesty, right? So, something measurable and definable. You define when are you going to be doing that? Well, every day, or it may be something running 3 times a week, whatever. You define the time, you define the amount, you define all that. Make it written down so that you know how to measure at the end of the day or at the end of the week whether you have done it or not. Okay, that's first element, measurable. Second, that your life is gonna improve as a result. So if I change this thing in me, will my life improve? And will I get to a better level, a best place? And maybe through a little period, it will not be immediate, but in the long term, it's going to get me to a better level. So you can identify that and consider whether the one thing that you wrote, it's for sure going to improve your life. The third thing, is it ecological? So there's an ecology around us. There is people around us. There's my family. There is my friends. If I change something, this aspect, how is that going to affect those around me? And if it affects them, I have to evaluate whether even then I want to do it or not. For example, you want to learn how to sing opera. And so you decide every day I'm going to practice for 1 hour. Okay, that's a nice commitment, but if you live in an apartment complex with very thin walls and you have no other place to chant or sing, then your neighbors are going to enjoy it or suffer it, right? So the ecology is going to be affected by it. If you say, well, I'm going to be full vegetarian, I'm going to stop eating meat for sure. Okay, that's great. But if you are the one who cooks for the whole family, that's going to affect the whole family. Are they ready to do that? Are they going to also stop eating meat? Are you going to cook your meal and their meal at the same time? You have to consider all these things. So the ecology of a decision is also very important. If you decide that you're going to do, I'm talking about ecology and it may seem like very light thing, but when we talk about yoga, some of the aspirations in yoga is to chant every morning before the sunrise. And sometimes, if we do the full sadhana, we chant 1 hour for 1 hour. Well, the neighbors are going to find out if it's before sunrise, at 5 in the morning, you are chanting. What the hell is that doing? So if you're going to be disturbing the peace of the neighbors, is that fair to them? And is there any alternative, or can you do it in another way? Or what can we do to change that? So I would just remember when I was in university, I would go out. I would go into a park and chant in the park. I would leave at 5 in the morning, and there was nobody in the park at those hours, and I wouldn't bother anyone. I couldn't do it in my house. I would wake up all the neighbors. So you have to consider the ecology of the decision. So the first thing is that it's measurable, then your life improves. And the third is the ecology. The fourth one is whether the change that you want to do depends only on me. Some of the resolutions, New Year resolutions that we do are depending on things that happen around me. And maybe you want to do something or you want to stop doing something, but that is something that you always do with your partner, or that you do it together, or in your family, something that is in your family, or something that doesn't depend from you, or maybe you don't have the economic means to do that or to stop doing that. So if it's not depending on you, how can you commit yourself for the new year to change it? It's going to be very hard. So you have to check whether that decision to change is going to be depending on someone else or not. The ideal is that the list of things, of karmic habits that we want to change, they are all fully dependent on me. Otherwise, if it depends on the circumstances or situation or people around me, someday it will not be possible. And then that day you're going to fail the commitment. And then if you stop one day, forget it. Yeah, because then you break the commitment and then you lose all the ground that you earned. So it's better to make it so that it's only dependent on me. And one more thing I would like to add also, that this change should be dharmic, something that you are gonna hold on to that to get to a better position for yourself, to improve yourself, to get to the next level, to grow in your potential and get to a best place for yourself. So the motivation to do it should not be something like, I want to demonstrate to the others that I can do it, or prove anything to others, prove anything to others, or compensate for something. So if you start doing yoga in the morning just to prove to the people around you that you are a very great yogi, that's not great. If you stop some addiction just to prove to others that who told you you couldn't do it, just to prove them wrong, that's going to come from your ego. That strength to do that is going to come from your ego, to be proud and to show others that you can do it. And the ego is not a good dependent source for the inner will. It's not the same. You can do things from the ego or from the inner will. So I would recommend that when you have the list of 10 things, you evaluate yourself. Why do I want to change this? Is it because it's truly for me and my life is going to improve, or because I want to demonstrate something or compensate for something, or I want to show to others how good whatever I am? That's going to be ego, and that's not something that we would recommend then. Well, after all this, and let's say you define the resolution, which is measurable, it improves your life, it's ecological, it depends only on me, and I do it for dharmic reasons with all these elements, then we choose the one at the top of the list, and we start on a significant day. We said that when we start, we're not going to stop. Yeah, we decided to do this. It's a life change, so you want to not fall back to where you are. So if you stop one day, you lost the challenge, let's say. Because if you are too soft on this, and some things I like to be flexible, and some things you have to be rigid. If you allow yourself to fail for one day, let's say the day that is really hard, you stop. You don't do it. Then the next day you come back to doing it. But now you have the memory that when it's hard, you're not going to do it. And your mind is going to sabotage you. While if the day that is hard you do it, then you're going to have the memory that you can do it even in the hardest of times. And that's going to support you. So the idea is that when you start, you don't stop. And so my invitation in this is to choose a day that is significant. I used to do it every day of my birthday. So when my birthday would come, that day was the first day for a new thing in my list. And I would have my list, and I went one by one. And it was absolutely life transforming. I totally encourage you to do it. And I would choose the day of my birthday. And I would choose that day because and it's very significant. First, it's a day that you celebrate. It's like a new life, so it's significant. And then later on, if one day was very hard and I was ready to quit, I would tell myself, if I stop now, I cannot start changing any other life habit until next year of my birthday again. And you don't want to wait a whole year to improve yourself. You want to keep, the improvement going. So, if you start on your birthday and then 1 month later you stop, you have to wait 11 months, then you wasted a whole year that you could be improving yourself. So my recommendation is to choose one day and then go for it, and pick up the day that is significant. Now that can be the equinox, it can be the solstice, it can be your birthday, but the typical day is the 1st of January. That's the one that is for most people is very significant, the New Year resolution. But it should be something that you can feel yourself ready to do. And if it's in the holidays, sometimes it's hard. Maybe if it's something like getting up in the morning to do prayers and salutations at 5 a.m., let's say, if you choose the 1st of January, which is right after the 31st of December, some people spend the night, partying, and the first day of January, you're going to do that. Really? That's the day you're going to choose to do that habit? So make sure that when you choose the habit, that is something that you can start on that day. Or create a clause in your commitment to yourself that you write and say, well, those days which are holidays, I will not do it at 5, I will do it at 8 or whatever, or I will allow myself any time of the day to do it, right? And that would be like a good way to support yourself. But the idea is this: you choose one day, and then once you start, you don't stop. That is the thing. And then every few years, you go back to the list, you review the list, you see what you have progressed, you appreciate how much progress you have made, and maybe reward yourself as well. And you can set yourself some things that you would like to accomplish or do in your life, and say, well, if I accomplish these changes, these habits, then I will allow myself, to go to Italy. I'm gonna do, holidays in Italy. I'm gonna spend a weekend visiting Venice or whatever. Yeah, for example, I'm just giving an example. So being able to, so very important when you are doing the life change, do not shame or attack yourself for the others that are not changing. Right? You are just dealing with this one right now, the top of the list, and as the year goes by and you manage to complete it, you review it, you enjoy it, you feel satisfaction, and then you can reward yourself as well and do something for yourself that you are happy with and that you completed the commitment. All right, that was an introduction to life habits and how to change them. That is, as I said, this is part of the material for a course that is 6 days, full intensive training, and we study also the habits that should be changing throughout life according to our life cycle, depending on which age do we have. But that's a very long course in yoga, and today was only a sweet little taste of it, only 1 hour of how to change life habits. The 1st of January is very close. I encourage you to start thinking about the resolutions now and get the list ready, so that when the 1st of January comes, if you want, then you can start those habits. And I hope you are very successful in holding them, and be honest to yourself, be truthful, don't be hard on yourself, but keep the commitment and enjoy the benefits of doing it. And thank you very much. Until next time, Satam.